On this very beautiful day, I want to thank the congregation once again for the opportunity to be with you. I have always enjoyed coming to Modesto and do so once again today. Well, prior to the verses that we want to read this morning, we see that Nebuchadnezzar had built a rather large idol. And following that, he invited all of the dignitaries from the various provinces to come and to dedicate that idol and to bow down before it. There were some astrologers who figured that Nebuchadnezzar did not go far enough, and they wanted him to make a law that everybody had to come and worship this idol. Doing so with the full knowledge of the fact that there were three young men who were not going to do that, which of course, as we know, they did not. And that's where we pick up the story in Daniel chapter 3. Daniel 3. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual, and commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" And they replied, "Certainly, your majesty." He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of God." Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was their hair on their head singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and their house be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. there's two attitudes of the mind that Christians have to avoid today, or any day for that matter. On the one hand, they have to avoid the attitude of complacency. In other words, the attitude of who cares? The attitude of acting as though everything is just dandy about society as we know it. It's an attitude that overlooks the sins that are so prevalent and so destructive in our world today. It's the attitude that's willing to just kind of wink at sin, and not a big deal, you know. Even the sins of the church are often looked at in that way as well. Then there's the other attitude that has to be avoided by Christians, and that's the attitude of despair. It's the attitude of looking at the world with the thinking that it's beyond help. It's watching the news on TV or reading the newspaper and feeling that, this world really stinks. And furthermore, not only does the world stink, but in many ways the church kind of stinks as well. It has its arguments. It often shows a lack of love toward one another and toward the world. There's abuses which are amongst the clergy as well as amongst the members. It's in such a mess that even those who are very sincere don't seem to be able to pull it together once again. And so what's the use? We might as well just give up and hide under a rock someplace and wait for the Lord to return. Well, for those who fall into either one of these categories, the words of Daniel 3 just literally leap off the page as though they were written just specifically for us living today. In that chapter, we see three men standing up and living a life of faith in a world which is being ruled by a pagan named Nebuchadnezzar, and under pressure to conform to a way of life which denied God. And what we see in these three are men who certainly weren't complacent, just simply kind of going along with the flow. Neither, however, were they despairing and running away from a fight, refusing to confront the enemy. Instead, what these three men show to us is the real meaning of faith. The real meaning of trusting in a God who overcomes. Names are rather old-fashioned ones. At least I don't know any Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I'm not sure about you. But in reality, they really could be the names of any one of us which are inserted into this particular story. Whatever the case, these three men certainly model for us how faith defies defeat and how it stands up to life's ultimate tests. We don't know too much about these men, other than the fact that they were Jewish captives who must have held some rather important positions in the government of Babylon. We're not sure, but one thing we are sure of, and that is that they were men who obviously refused to just simply go along. The king built his big idol, and I do mean a big idol. It was 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. I'm not a builder at all, but I'm told that each floor is about 10 feet, and so that means that this idol was 9 stories of a building high. Not sure there's a 9-story building in Modesto. I can guarantee you that there is not one in Ripon. We were lucky to get a 2-story house. But when the king built this idol, he commanded that it ultimately be worshipped by everyone after the astrologers got with him. And these three men drew the line there, and they absolutely refused to do so. And I'm pretty sure that they were under no illusion whatsoever that somehow they were going to get away with being disobedient to the king. And for that matter, I'm quite sure that they had talked about the possible consequences because they had heard the command of the king as well. They were fully aware of the power that the king wielded, what he said went, but they decided that they would refuse to yield to such idolatry in spite of the consequences. We can certainly admire their resolve, can't we? However, the real point here is that they were not complacent in the face of obvious evil. Instead, they recognized it for what it was, namely a denial of the one only true God. For them, the antithesis was real. There was a real battle going on between good and evil. And that's something that we have to fully recognize in our day and age as well. Evil is with us. There's no doubt about it. And I don't think I'm telling you anything new. It is around us. And that's, I think, especially true as far as young people are concerned. There's so many evils which are presented to them. I don't care where they are, whether it be in society as a whole, whether it be in the school, whether it be in the Christian school, I hate to inform you. But there's drugs, there's sexual activity, there's alcohol, and we could go on and on with the evils that our young people are confronted with on a daily basis. But these three young men, probably not a whole lot older than many of the young people, they refused to simply go along with the flow. Instead, they went directly against it. However, we also see that in these three men is that neither did they despair. They didn't say, what's the use? The whole nation's gone to hell in a handbasket anyway, so let's not make a big issue of this whole thing, okay? Such an easy path to take, isn't it? Because then we don't have to deal with these things at all. Then we can just sit back and come what may, and we can perhaps even participate in some evil, providing it's not too bad. And we can do so without even feeling guilty about it. It's not what these three men did. Instead, they took their stand, and they absolutely refused to worship that idol. Caught between the king, the idol, a fiery furnace, and the Lord, they were determined to follow the Lord, even though that meant, obviously, that fiery furnace. Notice the response to the king. O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. In other words, we're not going to waste our time. We're not going to waste our time trying to get out of this. We're not going to waste our time arguing our case because we've taken our stand no matter what the consequences might be. Why? They go on to say, because the God we serve is able to save us. They firmly believe that God was able to deliver them if he so chose to do so, and so they were going to stand with him. However, that's not the end of their response. Because they go on to say, but even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set. But even if not, that right there is ultimately the essence of faith. Because what these four words talk about is the steadfast trust in God. These four little words literally shatter the power of Nebuchadnezzar. He has no power over them at this point. Now he has no control whatsoever. Because in this critical issue, they said, we will serve the Lord, no matter how negative the results of doing that might be. And that's what faith ultimately does. Faith doesn't say, if you get me out of this mess, Lord, I will follow you. It doesn't say, along with Jacob, if you bless me, Lord, then I will trust in you. In fact, it doesn't even say, I will trust in you to keep me safe. Instead, it says, along with Job, though he, that is God, though he slay me, yet I will trust in him. God would certainly have delivered Job from that affliction. After all, he's the one who gave the devil the permission to afflict him in the first place. However, Job says that even if he does, even if he chooses not to deliver him, Job will still be obedient. He will still trust in him. In this way, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego reflect Job. But more importantly, they are also pointers toward our Lord Jesus Christ. Right at the beginning of his ministry, the devil says, worship me, and the whole world is yours. And what Satan's basically saying there is, hey, Jesus, you know that that furnace of the cross can be avoided if you will just fall down. That's all. That's all. Maybe even one knee is enough. You don't have to go all the way on your face. If you will just fall down and worship Jesus, and you know what Jesus' answer is, right? Get behind me, Satan. Jesus knew that his Father could deliver him, but even if not, he would submit to his Father's will, and he would go to the cross. And that went on throughout the ministry of Jesus, right to the very end, where Pilate says, "I'll get you out of this, you know. One word. That's all I have to speak, and you're out." And Jesus' reply is, "My Father could send legions of angels to get me out of this. But even if not, even if he doesn't, even if I do have to drink that cup, even if I do have to go to the fiery furnace of Golgotha, I will commit my life into my Father's hands." That's a faith that trusts in God. Trust in a God who is able to deliver. Firmly believes in a God who knows what's best and will make things right in his own way and at his own time, whether that be here on earth or not. What this incident teaches us then is that the things that are needed in order to have the kind of faith that can stand up against evil. The evil that we find in our world, but the evil that we find within us as well. And I think there's three words that we can glean from this story which can help us in answering this question. The first is this: power. Power. I'll start with P, so remember, it's easy to remember. Power. Not our power, of course, but God's power. We need a faith that recognizes the incredible power of God. We can't avoid the dominant message that these three men firmly believe in an omnipotent, all-powerful God, one who is sovereign in all of the affairs of this world. Even though it looked as though the power of evil had a whole lot of rope in this particular situation, these three men believed that the rope was firmly held in the hand of an all-powerful God. Nebuchadnezzar had had conquered the Israelites. He ruled over them with an iron fist. But these young men firmly believed that God could certainly shatter Nebuchadnezzar in the same way that he shattered Pharaoh there in Egypt many years prior to this. They undoubtedly knew the story of Pharaoh and the Israelites escaped from Egypt, and they were fully aware, consequently, of what God could do if he so chose. They knew that their God was infinitely more powerful than even a man like Nebuchadnezzar. They had no doubt he had the power to deliver them. But even if not, even if they had to go to that fiery furnace, they knew that in the end he would overcome. That's the first thing that we have to realize in the face of evil. Our God is infinitely more powerful than all of the forces of evil put together. And what that means is that consequently we can take risky stands just like these three men did. We can risk our jobs if necessary. We can witness, we can risk some friendships, maybe long-standing ones, because we can say, along with the psalmist, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. God definitely uses means to deliver us. Means that we oftentimes just simply don't understand. But we always have to know that our God reigns. Our all-powerful, omnipotent God reigns. Do you believe that? Do you believe that our God reigns? Knowing that he does is the only way that we can look at evil in the face and not despair over it. And furthermore, it's the only way that we can be able to be bold enough to take the stand that these three men did against the issues that we face today as well. Then the second thing that we need in dealing with evil, the evil that we find in our world and in our lives, is prayer. The entire book of Daniel is really a testimony to the incredible power of prayer. How do we know that these three young men prayed? Well, Scripture tells us that Daniel faithfully prayed, of course, 3 times a day that he did that. And since these 3 young men were friends of Daniel, I think we can safely assume that prayer was a very major part of their life as well. And it's here then that Jesus comes to mind once again, because that's what he did every time that he was confronted with some evil of one sort or another. What he did is leave his disciples, go to a place, isolated place, and he prayed. And throughout the century, that's what great men and women of flesh of faith have always done as well. It was by the apostles' prayers that Nero was brought. It was by prayer that John Calvin was able to stand firm in the faith. It's by prayer that Martin Luther was able to say, "Here I stand, I can do no other." By prayer that Christians throughout the ages have found the strength to stand up against evil, even evil at the worst time. Jesus said that we ought to always pray and not faint. And I wonder how many of us believe that as much as what Jesus did. And if that's what we do in the face of things such as abuse, racism, crime, materialism, broken homes, abortion, terrorism, and all of the other evils that we find in our world today, do we really fall on our knees? And do we earnestly implore God to intervene? Or do we simply just rail against all of these horrible evils that are present today? Do we really fall on our knees before God? I can just see these three young men getting up off their knees to face the King. When I get down because of the power of evil that I see in our world today, and which I see admittedly in my own life. And I think I do that more and more the older I get. I wonder if it's not because I have not spent enough time in prayer. The faith that's necessary in order to deal with evil opposition cannot live without prayer. It's the same, simply the thing that we cannot do without. Then we come to the third thing we need to do in order to deal with evil, and that is to be cognizant of the presence of God in our world. And so we have those three things: power, prayer, and presence. The story literally shouts of the presence of the Lord. Well, we can't see him necessarily, but he's there. And he is always there with those who trust in him, those who stand firm for the faith. Even secular and demonic Nebuchadnezzar came to see that. As he stood to watch these three men being burned to death in the fire, which was heated 7 times what it normally was, he says, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" And when he is told that that was most certainly the case, he says, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed. And the 4th looks like a son of God." And then he says, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." Nebuchadnezzar finally came to realize that God answers the petitions of his people, that he stays with them always, even in the fiery furnace, even in the operating room, even as the doctor says you have some kind of cancer in the 4th stage, even in the death of a loved one, even as we face bankruptcy. Can you imagine how embarrassed and bewildered Nebuchadnezzar and the rulers must have been? I'm sure a lot of them were asking, what's going on here anyway? Well, what was going on is Romans chapter 8 prefigures. Who shall separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus? Jesus in a pre-incarnate appearance, who is believed to be the angel in the fiery furnace with these 3 men. And so it's obvious that nothing, not even a fiery furnace, is able to separate us from it. Fiery trials of the temptations we face every day most certainly can't do it. The battles of self-doubt are not able to do it. And neither can the rushing waters of evil that's so present in our world today do it. No problem, no trial, no evil, not even death itself, are able to separate us from the presence of our God. Jesus is always there. He's there to deliver us. He's there to sustain us. He's there to fight against evil, both in this world and in our individual lives as well. It's that truth that will allow us to face faith's most difficult and ultimate tests, whatever they might be. As Saint Girolamo da Salvatierra was being marched to death for his faith, he was saying something very quietly over and over again. And those leading him bent low to hear what he was saying. And this is what they heard. They may kill me if they choose, but they will never, ever tear the living Christ from my heart. Power. God's power. Prayer. Presence. These three words will help us to stand up to every trial, every temptation that comes our way, and not destroy our faith, no matter how severe they are, nor what the consequences of that may be. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we come before you once again to recognize you as the powerful God over all, the one who hears prayers and is responsive to them, the one who made promises and always is faithful to them. Promise